This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know nerds. This is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, I know it, I know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the S4Y VLOGCAST. This is episode number 34, and we have an exclusive for you today. We have the champion herself, Vanessa Kade, joining us a little bit later in the show to discuss her $1.5 million win on PokerStars yesterday. Joined as always, or mostly as always, my Dominican friend, Christian Soto, hanging out in what can only be described as the basement of an athletic dwelling where they store all of the extra equipment.
You know the drill, man. You know the drill.
That's turf behind you, right?
It is artificial turf.
Yeah.
You know, this is where we lift the tires and all that. You know how it is.
Yeah, a little sledgehammer.
Man, I am so excited about this episode. It is. It was crazy. Like I was watching everything yesterday, and it was just like it was an incredible moment. But how you been, man? I saw a little bit of a trip to the mountains.
Yeah, damn, I messed up. I had videos of my Bambi legs out there trying to snowboard as best I possibly could. It was good. It'll probably be the last one I make for the season. So I got to snowboard a total of 4 days this winter. And over those 4 days, I went from not being able to get down the mountain to being able to carve back and forth. Like somebody who has some semblance of an idea of what they're doing.
How long until like you're like jumping off, and like holding, like doing little...
No, I'm too old. However, Dan can do that stuff. I knew he was a competent snowboarder. I didn't realize he was as good as he is. So it was honestly, he sped up my learning curve a ton by like getting to hang out for 3 days in Tahoe and seeing somebody who can navigate black diamonds pretty well teach me how to get down the bunny hill.
Oh my God. So like that was where was that? That was Tahoe? Like
Yes.
Do you plan to go anywhere else to do some boarding and stuff?
I think it's too late. It's starting to get warm everywhere. I mean, there are places that you could go like up until April, but even in Tahoe where it usually gets pounded, a lot of the snow was like starting to get slushy. It was a little icy. It wasn't like super great conditions, and I'm just not good enough to really navigate less than optimal conditions.
We're gonna see each other soon.
Allegedly.
I'm gonna go to Florida.
Allegedly.
You
haven't played a tournament in 3 years. 4.
I can play some tournaments online too,
Yeah, but you don't.
I haven't played a live tournament.
You haven't played any online ones either.
But I'm a cash game pro. I'm just trying to bink one, I'm inspired, Vanessa's out there, like she's winning 1.5. I'm inspired. I'm like, oh my God, like
this tournament series is gonna be big. Or the Florida series.
I think it's gonna be massive.
Yeah, I think it'll be close to $1 million to first for the 3,500. And there's a 25K and a 50K also that are, as far as high rollers go, relatively soft.
You're in there?
Definitely playing the 25. Well, I shouldn't say anything's definite because there may be a quick trip to Mexico in the works prior.
Oh, you're in there.
I can't really talk about it, but it's an above the felt type thing, real exclusive shit.
Oh yeah, the above the felt. I feel a little bit shady about that. Like me and Tom, we go back in the day. Like he used to talk to me back in Borgata. He was like, "Yo, I'm selling these cards. Like I know people. Let them know. And then all of a sudden, when the contracts are up, my man's he's quiet as a beak. He went with my other man, Darren.
Yeah.
Not that I don't have anything against Darren.
Because he fucking crushes.
Yeah, Darren does crush. I know. No shade. No shade to Darren. No shade. I'm just saying, Tom. You gotta give me. Why? Is it because I'm Dominican?
No,
you don't want to give me a call?
No, I think you need to be out there, man. Your face needs to be all over the place. We haven't seen
That's
you.
his job. His job is to make my face all over the place.
We haven't seen you on site in a while,
I have to do his job and then pay him to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah,
Tom,
you got to give him a little something to work with.
Tom, you're running a good business, man. You're running a really good business. Oh, you get out there, do all the work, and then I'll sign you, and then it's all good. No, I think he's doing great work. I'm really excited for that project. So I'm really excited. Above the Felt, I think, is, it's cool. Like, it's nice to see that there is a second game in town, right? It's been the same game for a long time as it pertains to like agents and poker.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a
But
difficult landscape to navigate, to be honest, but we'll see.
but Tom, since you now on my bad side, I don't know. Maybe if you would have been on my good side, look, I could have talked about Above the Felt with Vanessa on this podcast. But now, now we'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see. I'll see
We'll
how I
see.
feel when Vanessa comes on.
Mhm.
All right. So I saw a little bit of some video work, in the stash of something called On Second Thought.
That's right.
We bringing it back with a
Little
little bit of
different.
a spin.
Yeah,
A little bit of a spin this time around. And it's going to be released on Saturday. Is that
Yeah.
right?
I'm pretty pumped about this actually. So I obviously enjoyed doing the podcast style that you and I did in the past, but I think like particularly when Chris and I did it, where we added the layer of the solver analysis to it, it seemed to just resonate more with people, right? Like you and I just giving our off the cuff thoughts doesn't really demonstrate anything because people just
So
have
on
to.
second thought,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
on second thought, for the people that are not like necessarily familiar with that concept, is we have a Poker Out Loud, which is fairly popular. We put on the headphones, talk about the hands, but then after that, we do a dissection of the situations that the people were talking about, and this edition is going to be a little different. So go ahead, Berg.
Yeah. So in the past, it was just Christian and I kind of analyzing the spots ourselves and giving our feedback, but that's not really worth that much because now effectively we're just doing the same thing that the player was doing in game, except we have the luxury of hindsight. So instead, what I decided would be a better approach is to create more of a scripted series, if you will, where we're taking all the solver analysis and we are merging it with the Poker Out Loud footage. So for anybody who watched 2020 hindsight on PokerGo that I did, where we kind of went back over the WSOP final tables and like I just gave my thoughts. It's going to be a similar template to that. It's going to be a similar style. Now, obviously, it's a very different show because I'm not just giving my thoughts any longer. I'm actually analyzing solver outputs and I'm examining it from both the strategy, counter strategy, vantage point, and things like that. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we even have a little bit of a preview. Ace-4 of hearts.
All right, this hand in the cutoff is just an easy raise. I mean, being in the cutoff and not the butt, I'm gonna make a slightly smaller raise and just do 25.
The first rule decision in the hand comes when I look at ace-queen in the small blind. Okay, we have a pretty natural 3-bet. We could flat call this hand at a certain frequency. As you can see, our range has ace-queen mixing between a call and a 3-bet. Given the slow nature of live poker, mixing preflop isn't really a major source of deriving EV. We can simplify to pure strategies with our mixed hands without much variation to our postflop strategies. That said, I like to utilize additional bits of information that you can gather live, which isn't necessarily available online. Now in this particular lineup, I'm not going to get much, but in your average casino game, you'll be able to choose the action which yields the most desirable result, i.e. calling if the big blind tends to squeeze too liberally, or 3-betting if the original opener is poorly constructed. I'm probably just going to play pretty aggressive versus this lineup in a 5-handed situation. So I'm going to be utilizing a size of 12.5x here from the small. Let's quickly take a look at the sizing I choose and why we're going on the larger side of things. 200 big blinds effective with the big blind ante in play, we want to construct our range in a relatively polarized manner while attempting to deny equity to some of Jeremiah's opening range. Jeremiah's hand purely calls, though should he decide to expand his 4-bet range at a low frequency, this hand candidate should serve him very well.
Alright, 125 from Berkey. It's good size, good call, I could re-raise. Got a couple options. I'm going to use slightly different combos for 4-bet bluffing. Instead, just play this through a call.
Are you fucking kidding me, bro?
What?
That is one of the sickest things. Like,
How good are pigtails?
all right. I mean, all credit to production, of course.
Yeah,
But I
of
mean,
course.
all right. Let's walk through why we think this is like so useful, or like, I mean, this was insane. Like,
Yeah. Honestly, the biggest value that I personally see of it is it taps into multiple learning styles, right? So if you're a kinesthetic learner, you're actually getting to see the hand play out and it's more hands-on. If you're a visual learner, you're actually getting graphs and charts thrown at you and you kind of get to digest everything in a very visual capacity, right? If you are more of an audio learner, well, I'm narrating the whole time. Each player is narrating their thoughts the whole time. So that makes things really easy. But the best part of it all is we don't have to speculate about the parameters. Both players are speaking their strategies out loud. So like, there's no real extrapolation process. If anything, I probably didn't do enough of my due diligence in deviating off of what the equilibrium strategy is, right? So like I kind of mentioned that ace queen could 3-bet at some frequency, but in this lineup I'm probably just going to play straight aggressive. I could have ran it where ace queen's a pure 3-bet there, but I didn't. I still gave the benefit of the doubt of like, okay, at equilibrium it's 3-betting like 15-20%, and I do recognize, or sorry, it's calling at 15-20%, and I do recognize that there may be spots in this game too where I'll call with it. So let's run it as such.
And then that's going to continue through every street.
Yep. Every decision
onto the
point.
river.
Yeah.
I mean, how much is the website again? I mean,
$50.
that's way too cheap. Come on.
We got to
man.
justify this price hike, baby. I'm getting a lot of emails. I don't think it's fair. You're raising the price 5x of what it used to be. That's unheard of. And I'm like, hey, we actually lowered it 12x from where it used to be. So really, you're still getting a discount, but I know you didn't know about us then, so I understand why you're upset. I just promise you we'll be doing some free stuff too. I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. I think we're giving value,
I mean, it looks pretty wild. Okay, I have a lot of questions of when is the next Poker Out Loud. I get bombarded with this question every day.
Yeah.
When is the next Poker Out Loud? What's the lineup? I'm like, lineup? We just started releasing.
Yeah. The next episode will be April 5th. So the first Monday in April, and it'll be weekly thereafter, with the fourth week being on Second Thought every month. So it'll basically be 3 episodes of Poker Out Loud, 1 episode of On Second Thought, continue that cycle through. I believe we'll be filming the next Poker Out Loud in 6 to 8 weeks. It might be actually 10 weeks. I'm not sure exactly how much runway we have, but it'll probably be somewhere in May, would be my guess. And, we have
Lock
to start.
me up. Seat 5.
Yeah. We have a couple of special guests already lined up. You guys will get to know them a little bit better over the course of the next 4 to 6 weeks. But yeah, there are a lot of ideas I want to try to see come to fruition. Like I would love to do a coach's edition. Get the head of every site, and let's just get in there and throw it out.
You've been trying to go after Doug Polk for a little while, man.
He's not going to play. I don't give a shit about Upswing. They're too big. He's not going to play anyway. And honestly, like I don't want to do him any favors any more than he wants to do me any favors. So like whatever. Who gives a shit?
Fair. Okay, so let's get into some topics. But before that, please like, subscribe, help us out. It does help the algorithm if you leave us a little comment below. Let us know what you think about that On Second Thought with all the transitions. Shout out to our production team. They're the absolute best. All right, so let's set this up. Let's set the groundwork before we bring on Vanessa. So for those of you that haven't necessarily followed the story, we'll give a little bit of the groundwork. So first, let's talk about the Bilzerian fiasco, right? So Bilzerian calls her a hoe, says, "Shut up, hoe, nobody knows you." After she basically says why are they signing him? It's not necessarily a good thing. She's disappointed. Says, "Quiet hoe, nobody knows you." This tweet now will live on in infamy forever.
Life is quite serendipitous sometimes, isn't it?
It really is. And shout out to Melissa Burr, who's going to permanently have a little bit of
she's just tagged.
She's just tagged in there forever,
Yeah.
Okay, so that happens. You have one of the biggest names in poker, celebrity, influencer, calls you out in a very negative way.
Mm-hmm.
The community kind of doesn't take kindly to to him, but like doesn't necessarily like go super to bat, you know, for Vanessa. After that, we don't necessarily hear anything from Gigi directly concerning Dan Bilzerian until she, as in Vanessa, gets fired from Gigi. And this is when they finally make some sort of contact with Vanessa, and they send her a message, effectively just firing her, saying like you've broken terms and conditions of our contract, and you must have saw this coming, and effectively just removed her from the affiliate deal. We spoke about this a couple weeks back, where a lot of the argument was like, oh well, she was not speaking well of Gigi, so Gigi could remove that money. And effectively, what we were saying is, a lot of the critique for Vanessa was like, oh, why didn't you just walk away from the money? And I think you and I both agreed that it was just like pretty ludicrous to just line the pockets of Gigi with extra money for work that she had already done.
Yeah, I'd like to ask her a little bit of her vantage point on that. But yeah, my take was essentially that I think the only due diligence that she needed to really follow through on is, if possible. So in other words, if she has an affiliate list, she should at least reach out to them and say, hey, I don't agree with this company's stance any longer. I'm going to be parting ways with them. I strongly suggest you consider doing the same, whether they do or not. And yeah, it is a little bit cutting your nose off to spite your face, because you're kind of severing a revenue source, but you're also hitting them where it hurts if, you know, people are going to show their allegiance to you. So if she has that type of influence over the people that signed up as affiliates, you know, she can potentially at least take that money away from the company.
Yeah. So after that, there was a little bit of just silence. She gets signed by ACR. They announced that signing. That was actually in the works before the entire squabble.
Sure.
And
honestly, it probably helped. It probably, like, all the attention probably helped get that deal done.
Well, the deal from what I've heard was already in the, like, it was in the works. It was pretty much locked up.
Oh, okay.
And then it was, you know, maybe we'll hear from Vanessa and she'll tell us. Okay. So one little thing I want to get in context of, like, you know, so the Sunday Millions is the 15th anniversary, 1.5 million for first. But right before that, it's the biggest one ever. Right before that, we get some interesting news, right? From, you know, for American poker, which was the Wire Act. And this was actually going to be like the main story of this podcast coming into this week. You know, things change. But talk to me about this. Like, you know, you hit me up with this and you were like, hey, like, this is like a huge deal. And it was crazy because a lot of people didn't even know about this. Like, when I started like sharing this link out to people, they were like, whoa, wow, I didn't even know this was going on. So talk to me a little bit about this, like when you saw this.
Yeah, so to be fair, I didn't really read the article too closely, and I guess that they've retracted some of the information that was being reported. But essentially, the way I understood it was that the Wire Act did not hold up at the highest courts. Therefore, now it was at the state level, where each individual state was free to do as they chose regarding any sort of online gaming. So in other words, in, you know, coast to coast, each state can set their own individual laws, as most already have been doing to some regard. The reason why the Wire Act is so important is because it will, its elimination thereof will help facilitate intrastate gambling. In other words, getting the entire United States on the same liquidity pool, right? Now, again, that still has to opt in at the state level. Like if California just says, fuck you, we hold 40% of the nation's revenue, we're not getting in any liquidity pool with you guys, then they're going to be free to do that. But the whole point is that, like, with the Wire Act removed, a lot of the red tape goes away, and now suddenly banks can facilitate funding. we can get back to days of yore, if you will, when online poker was the wild, wild west. So one of the big holdups that the Wire Act was presenting was the inability to fund sites, right? With the elimination of that, I think we'll see like DFS start to go coast to coast. We'll start to see online poker resurge. And I'm not entirely positive of sportsbooks laws. I don't know if I don't know if you actually need gaming or not, because I know for sure that Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Nevada, you can bet, but I'm not positive anywhere else. Maybe Michigan as well. In any event, it's a step in the right direction, right? The ball is rolling. Whether or not now I hear there's a retraction, so perhaps it's not actually held up at the highest courts yet. It sounds like it still has another step of the process to go through. But seemingly it's a favorable administration to eliminating this nonsense that, got signed in the 11th hour way back in 2006.
Jersey's lit, bro. Like if you go to the DFS, like they have a DFS like effectively like a stadium almost. It's in the Meadowlands.
Oh wow.
It's like DraftKings. Like you literally go there and they have infinite TVs. You could bet. I only made one bet. One of my boys was like, yo, you gotta bet Khabib versus McGregor.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, it's a lock. They always think it's a lock.
Sure.
Literally every better is a lock.
They just want you to suffer with them whenever they lose.
Bro, so I bet 5,000. I didn't even watch the fight. I was like, all right, if it's a lock, I got you.
It's very weird. DFS has headquarters out here. My good friend Dolak works for them, and I just met another girl who like is doing some sort of I don't know if like she works in the middle management or whatever, but I don't understand why they're headquartered out here. I can't play fantasy football, right? I can't do daily fantasy here. It's not allowed. So I guess the only thing that makes sense is that they don't have to pay state income tax, so they're operating here. But maybe that's kind of an inclination too, that they're close or on the precipice of getting it nationwide again.
Bro, we got to learn the rules, man. I heard something about if you cash out your Bitcoin up in Puerto Rico, you don't get no taxes.
Sure.
You about to go see some Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico's nice.
You know what I was seeing, briefly before we get into like, and we bring on Vanessa, like, I think they should NFT. I was reading the chat, and they all think that we should NFT one of some of these tweets. Some of the some of these, Bilzerian should be the NFT tweet. Yesterday's Vanessa's tweet when she won was super popular.
I tried really hard to make the thumbnail the one of her flipping off the camera showing her abs, but the quality of the picture was just like too grainy. I couldn't work with it.
I'm sure she would have fucking loved it though. She would have.
I should have just had her like take another one, because I had this whole thing in my head where I was gonna get like Blizerian on there and like her whipping him off.
No, that was to Dan Talley though.
Oh yeah, that's right. Even better.
So one of the things I do want to talk about, before we bring on Vanessa, and I do want to ask her this as well, is this, and I saw some mentions of this on Poker Twitter today, where it was, does it take to get everyone on your side? Like, is this what it is?
Here's the thing, man. I think we are a little hypercritical and sensitive to this type of stuff, because the fact of the matter is, it's not like people weren't championing for Vanessa all along the way. It's more so that there were prominent voices championing against her, right? Mm-hmm. So for every 10 guys that are out there doing their best to try to uplift somebody like Vanessa, or even just women in poker as a whole, there's a Doug Polk who has 100x the audience that's just saying, This is ridiculous that you're framing it this way. And that's hard to overcome. I think your and I's point a couple weeks ago of the female voices as a whole being relatively silent on this issue was a little bit concerning. But I also, and I'd like to talk to Vanessa about this too, because I'm not a female. I can't speak from their perspective. I think I do understand though, because of the fear of putting yourself out there and then having a Polk come through and just bulldoze you, right? It's like, no matter how prominent you are in this industry, male or female alike, when there are people who are just much higher on the social hierarchy than you are, it becomes very difficult to just like speak without there being ramifications. And a lot of people don't want to suffer them, right? It's like, you and I, we don't give a fuck. I'm old and grizzled and couldn't give a shit less, and you are Dominican and spicy and like to stir the shit. So it's just like, whatever, man. We look cringy on Twitter sometimes. Like we say some things that it's where our head and heart are in the right place, but it's just weird to pick public fights like that. Imagine being somebody like Liv Marie or Chrissy B, who's like effectively risen to the top of this community, is largely just like flying under the radar or relatively silent when it comes to these types of issues, and then speaking out and having just like a polk hammer come down on you. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that would happen. I do think that some voices garner more respect than others, but I am trying to basically like empathize with the fact that we just didn't hear very many prominent female voices speaking out on this issue. And secondarily, like they're not all in alignment, right? It's just like any other aspect of this community. Not everybody agrees that Dan Bilzerian is a huge problem. Not everybody agrees that, his lifestyle misogyny is the reason why women don't want to be in poker. And I do think there is a fuck ton of nuance here that is certainly lost on Twitter, but is probably even lost just in these little small echo chambers of speaking, right? Like I'm sure you, me, and Vanessa can have a pretty long, well-developed, thoughtful conversation about why Dan Blizerian is the problem. And we would just completely lack the context that maybe somebody like Marley or someone else in the community could provide us of why he's not. And until we get to a point where we're amplifying a bunch of different voices that are all logical, reasonable, and well-respected in unison, we're just going to constantly keep fighting ourselves and tearing each other down until nothing's left but ashes.
So how do we go about that? It's like one of those things where we just like someone from the other side just steps up and comes on a podcast and just like,
I mean, you know how it is. You have a social responsibility if you choose to accept it whenever you have a platform, right? So it's just the people with the biggest platforms, maybe caring enough to have honest debate and good faith arguments rather than just choosing a side and doubling down. And I don't think that's going to change, right? Like Polk didn't get relevant by towing the line. Guys like Ingram, he gets a lot of shit for it, for like fence sitting and never really picking a side. But he could leverage that pretty well if it started to develop the framework of good faith arguments and fair debates where both sides are being heard. It's a lot to ask of somebody like Joe, right? Like, it's like, hey, you have this platform, and what I want you to do is I want you to amplify both sides of whatever the most relevant argument is right now, and I need you to mediate it, which is something that you've never done before. It's a lot to ask.
Bro, I think he's listening, bro.
Good. Tell him I said what's up.
I think he's listening. All right, let's cut back to before Vanessa comes on. I do want to finish this last topic. So they ran a 12.5 million guarantee, right? Mm-hmm. The Wire Act, something's up. The owner of Venetian, he's dead. Live poker is blossoming. Yeah. Like, obviously, like, with COVID and everything, but anytime anything runs, it's huge, right?
Yeah.
So what does that mean for American poker? And maybe I'll leave this one for Vanessa. I want to see if like she thinks that there's a little bit of a Chris Moneymaker effect. Hopefully she's not listening.
Chill out, bro. I mean,
but okay, what does it all mean though? Like, does this culminate into something that we should be caring about?
It means a baby step. It means the same thing that it meant when WSOP came into the market 6 years ago in Nevada. It means the same thing that Michigan getting legalized last year, Pennsylvania 2 years ago means. It's a absolute tiny step forward in getting online gaming regulated.
You're always so sad.
I'm not sad. Honestly, first of all, from my perspective, I'm very much contrarian on this viewpoint. I don't necessarily think that having legalized poker coast to coast is the best thing for the ecosystem as a whole. I don't think that it's not, but I'm not convinced that we haven't been better served over the last 7 years by being shut out from the online world. Now I'm not, whatever. The other players in the sphere are much stronger because they have had the ability to play online, but it's also like corrupted the ecosystem in a way that what is going on with Christian right now? Andre, either fix him or put me full screen. But like with that said, yeah, I think we have to just treat it like what it is. It's positive news. It's a step in the right direction. There are a lot of corporate dollars out there that are interested in getting this changed and at least having nationwide liquidity. And, I don't think that there's going to be a major stepping stone that happens, right? It's just going to be a bunch of these small steps that add up until suddenly 48 states are legalized.
All right. There's some people that would like to see a lot of online poker.
Man, have they played live though? Bro.
I think we might bring on someone that has a little bit of a nice taste to online poker right now. And that is the Sunday Million 15th anniversary winner. Not afraid to call out your shit. ACR superstar pro Vanessa Kade.
Hi.
1.5 million. How are you feeling?
I probably could not possibly be feeling any better.
You rich.
I still have the cashier open. I'm just looking at that 1.5 M.
It's still in your account?
Yeah.
Oh, Vanessa,
I haven't done anything yet.
we have to get in Bitcoin immediately.
We're gonna figure it out. I've never been in this spot before. I don't know what to do with it yet. So,
all right, so
I'm talking to some people about
you're gonna buy 100 Bitcoins somehow at a discount, and we're gonna move on with life.
Oh man, I saw on your social media that the screen, the winning screen, it's still up on your computer.
It's right in front of me. I'm still looking at it. Yeah.
So you just haven't clicked OK yet?
No, I'm never gonna click OK on that. They're gonna have to like forcibly take this window away from me. That's the only way it's going anywhere.
Oh my lord, that's amazing. So, walk us through like some of the final moments of your tournament. I think that I personally have never been in a $1 million spot, but walk us through like some of the moments, like the
man. Okay, so like obviously one of the big moments is like that Jack 8 shove, which like looks pretty interesting, but like I'm looking at that spot and it's like I can't remember the exact stack sizes, but all of the short stacks are still in. The two big stacks, this is going to be the only hand in the next like several hands that they're out of the hand. And so we actually have leverage against these shorter stacks. We're about to pay a big blind. Like it's just like looking really grim. We have like, a hand or two more until we're paying like another big blind and half a big blind. So I decided to like shove that and just hope that like those guys know, because all those stacks are so even, that they just have to be like really, really strong to call off, and like especially the earlier positions behind me. So we took a risk with the Jack 8, got called off by the big blind, and like hit a miracle 8, which like was really amazing. That was like really exciting.
Are you shaking at this point? Like what's happening?
Yeah, I was like shaking pretty much the whole final table. Yeah, definitely. So that was a big hand. And then like before this, the last final two tables, we were like super card dead for ages. And like didn't have any hands, and like we're just in spots where we were like kind of handcuffed, and like either just had junk and it got like open and 3-bet in front of us. So like there were just so many spots that just like played itself where you can't like really do anything. And then
some of the famous hands, like the hands that will go down in like the history books, were like you calling with like ace queen, and like the 7 rips up on the flop, and it's like the 7 comes on the flop, you're probably seeing like the tournament just like completely just like flashing before your eyes.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like though, like when I shoved that Jack 8 and like I just got super short, that I kind of like accepted that like if this is the end of the tournament, and I forget how much we had locked up at that point, like 250K or 225K, that like if this is it, like it's still an amazing score, and like I just have to accept it's gonna be what it's gonna be, and like do the best that I can. And I feel like once I got that low and had considered that and been in that spot where I'm like, this could just be over, that like I felt a little bit more fearless about the rest of the hands. Like it's almost like once you get in that point of like really being threatened, that like the rest of it feels less scary for some reason. So yeah, so I saw the 7 and I like, obviously my stomach lurches, and then it was just like queen on the turn right away. I'm like, holy shit, like thank God. Oh my God.
Are you like a talker? Are you someone that like yells hold, or are you just like silent, like holding your breath? Like how, like what, like we want to envision it.
I mean, I'm pretty much just like sitting at my desk, like just like totally frozen. Like I just like, there were a couple times I like almost squealed kind of with giddiness, like after a hand was done that was like really dangerous. But yeah, while it's happening, like just frozen.
Walk us through this hand, like if you can. This was like one of the sickest hands, right?
Yeah.
Are you just never folding?
So as soon as we flop 2 pair there, like I know just blind on blind, especially versus this guy, like he's one of the ones I was watching on the stream playback here, and I'd seen him like 3-bet really light, like correctly in a lot of spots that are like really good to be aggressive in to pick up chips. And so I know like this guy is playing like aggressive level 9,000, like, and like I play this way often on like in a lot of ACR spots when I'm like just.
But right now, like you kind of know he's gonna shove like a.
I know he's
fair
gonna
amount of
like
time.
basically as soon as we flop 2 pair, I know this guy's gonna triple barrel off no matter what. Like high card, flop Broadway, doesn't matter. Like triple barrel's coming because of the ICM pressure. So we flop 2 pair, and I'm just like, we're check calling this all the way down to get him to like bluff off his whole stack if we can do. And like, yeah. So like as soon as we hit like flop the 2 pair, I'm just like check calling the whole way. Like maybe there's like some really weird spot if like the river is a second ace or something like that, or just like some weird like pair, like 4th card to Broadway or something like that, where I just like feel sick and have to like think about it for a second. But luckily it went brick, and if it bricked out, I was just calling off no matter what.
So there was one hand that you didn't expect to have happened, I'm sure, right? Because most of the time your opponent's going to fold.
Yes.
But he didn't this time. And that was the ace king versus 5s.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to shove 5s. Do you expect to just like get a fold like a ridiculous amount of the time?
Like, yeah, you're supposed to fold like so much of your range in the spot because of the other short stack there. So like the whole reason you rip 5s there, at least the whole reason I rip 5s is because you're supposed to fold like so many hands. And I haven't run this, but I feel like ace king is a fold there. Like I'm pretty sure.
No,
so the cards are running.
You don't think so?
Well, I think he's just probably supposed to open shove if he's planning on raise folding. But ace king 3-handed, even with ICM pressure, it's just ahead of your reshove range when you're chip leader. That's my best guess.
Okay. I'm gonna check out that spot later, but like I know he's supposed to fold pretty wide with the other guy there.
Yeah, no. He's supposed to be folding a ton. In which case, like if ace king becomes a bad call off, then he should just be open shoving it. But there really isn't any way that he should be putting ace king in the muck pre, I don't think, unless he's just making pretty egregious errors.
How did you feel as the cards are running out?
So I was just like jarred by the fact he like snapped off, and I think it took me until the turn to like realize that he even called and he was on a high card. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm looking back at the board. I'm like, we're still good right now. Like, holy shit. And then, yeah, and it just bricked out. I'm like, thank God. Like,
all right, we're going to play sound, and I want you to just, after this clip, to just like come back with like your raw emotion after you hear these sounds. Okay. So like, we're going to play this.
Okay.
Vanessa Kade, huge advantage, 1.2 million. Taliban is barely a 10 big blind stack, all in with king 9 against 8s. 8s are holding, and 8s hold, and we have a winner. This is over. The Sunday Million 15th anniversary played to its conclusion, and it is Canadian poker pro and streamer Vanessa Kade, who takes it down for $1.5 million.
Yeah. So
How did you even feel hearing your name like that?
I actually didn't have the audio on the playback, so and that would have been like a half an hour after it actually finished. So I actually didn't see that part of the stream, but when that happened, like I just sat there and like froze, and then like I just got really emotional all of a sudden, and I had like a little tear go down my cheek, and then I was crying for a little bit because like this has been like a really long road for me, and then just like it felt like a couple years of pent up frustration of just being in a lot of big spots and getting pretty unlucky in a few spots, just like released all at once, where it's just like, holy shit, like 70,000 player field, and this is the one where like everything just goes right, and like unbelievable feeling.
You did talk about that yesterday. Like I tuned in to your stream. I dropped a couple of subs.
Yeah, the most ridiculous amount of subs, like 500 of them or something. Holy crap!
I was happy for you. Okay, so but talk to me about these 2 years, right? So you said that you haven't ran well, but are there other things like that, like when that tier did fall, like was it just the poker, or was there like other things in your life that like were like this was like such a cathartic moment for you?
I mean, it's a lot of stuff. Like I've had a really weird road, I think, to get here, and like the last, I think it's like maybe 70%, 75% just like being frustrated over like not being able to get like a really good score in the last couple of years, and like trying really hard to do my best, and like experimenting with like all kinds of weird play just to see how like stuff happens, and like dialing that back the last bit and whatever, and just like never really having everything like work out for me in like the big spots, and just feeling like I really wanted it to happen, you know? So I think like a lot of it was that, because I've just been like trying at this for like quite a while, that when it finally happened, it was just like amazing. I mean, there's like other stuff too, like yeah, I've like worked really hard on stuff the last bit, and it just feels like everything's coming together for me. Like maybe about 6 months ago, I decided to like reach out and get a poker coach. I actually had kind of two of them, where I was just like reviewing hands all the time, and like running stuff through Pio pretty much every single day, and like reviewing my hands and my tournament play like as much as possible. And then like I've worked really hard in other areas of my life, just like looking at nutrition and fitness and stuff. And I hired a personal trainer. I've been working out like 5 days a week, and just like, I don't know, it's like probably the only moment in my entire life where I felt like everything was just right, and I like put in some effort and it paid off, and it just like everything worked out.
So do you feel like did any of it have some emotional attachment to like all the stuff that has recently happened? Like, did you feel validated in any way? Like, did that come into your mind at all?
Sorry, you mean like with poker specifically, like with
like with the GG, like the Twitter, like all this stuff, like
to me, like the GG poker stuff is just like a really separate subject. And I remember like one of the last things I said last week to like one of the chip race guys who I've been talking to like a lot about this GG poker stuff, is that like this is not like really this is not what I want to be known for. Like it's unfortunate that like basically I'm going to be branded with this forever no matter what. And like what I really want to be doing is like crushing poker and winning tournaments, and like that's what I would hope people would like recognize me for. And I just know like the way that it was playing out, it's like it just felt like anytime my name is brought up, like this is what people are going to think of, like GG poker and misogyny, and whether that means that like I'm an annoying social justice warrior, or whether they think that's a good thing, like this is the thing. It's not going to be like about whether or not I'm good at poker or anything like that. So like to basically say that and be like, I kind of want to be done with this stuff, to be honest. Like I would like to like make the poker environment better for like not just women, but like everybody, if I can, like if I have any way to contribute towards that. But also like I would prefer like that's not just my thing. Like I want to be good at poker and winning. So like that's what I would be hoping to be on like podcasts for, like in social media and stuff, is like for wins, not for peripheral stuff, you know? So to have this big win come like right after I'm kind of like making that point is just like absolutely incredible. Cause like, you know, I'm hoping it's going to like turn the attention more towards this and like things that I feel like are more maybe positive and constructive and like, than the stuff that, you know, we've been dealing with the last few months.
And I think that is what we're seeing, right? I think we're seeing an outpouring of support, right? You're seeing like celebrities, poker players, both like women across all industries, like showing support. Like how does that make you feel? Because I completely agree that this statement you just made of winning this incredible tournament is like, I think this is what you're going to be remembered for. I think this is like bigger than any Twitter back and forth. But like, how do you feel about the outpour of support right now?
Incredible. Honestly, I was just saying, I was saying to Ape Styles today, because we actually talk a fair bit, that the last like before day 3, like at the end of day 2, between the end of day 2 and now, the amount of like positive messages and just like really supportive, like loving, kind things people have said to me is just like I have probably literally 1,000 DMs right now, and like it's all positive. And like that is like, I read some of them, I just start tearing up. Like I've never read so many like nice, happy things in my whole life. And it like, I was saying to Ape Styles that like, it almost means more to me than the money. Like it feels like emotionally, it feels like that is just as significant, you know? So like that has been absolutely incredible. Like, I can't believe it. Like the one post I made basically showing the final table and talking about the win has like 10,000 likes and 2.5 million views and like 1,000 comments on it. And like, there's almost no negative comments. Like it's unreal. I've never been a part of anything that felt so positive. Like it's crazy.
So I do want to double back a little bit to what you guys were just briefly discussing, as far as, you know, a little less so what you're known for and a little more so this newfound platform that you have, being a sponsored pro with ACR, as well as your most recent windfall, having this massive score and getting all eyes turned on you. I completely understand the desire for wanting to be recognized for your ability in game. But I guess the question that I'd like to extend out is more so pushing poker aside, because, you know, it's a career, it's what we do, but it is ultimately effectively zero sum, and it's not going to be what any of us want plastered on our tombstone, I don't think. Do you feel a certain sense of responsibility to this new platform, especially with all the attention that you have on you, to potentially, I guess, weave in these noble causes, whether that be trying to be more inclusive and growing the game for women, or be it something else that you might be passionate about? I mean, you know, it could be like the way Jamie's passionate about dogs, or whatever the case may be. I'm just curious, like, how you see your responsibility moving forward now as a sponsored pro and somebody who just really bolstered their resume.
I mean, I don't feel like responsibility is the right word. I'm sure there's a lot of people pulling for me to like, hopefully continue to speak up about things that could be improved and stuff. But like that, like outside pressure almost feels irrelevant to me. Like I've felt really strongly about a lot of this stuff myself, and I feel like I owe it to myself now that I have a platform in which I feel like I maybe am a little bit less vulnerable to, like you said, being smacked down by a louder voice who maybe disagrees and stuff, that I could actually like maybe get some messages out there and like actually talk with casinos or like venues, online sites and stuff like that, and like actually make changes that like I want to do those things, like regardless of outside pressure. If there are ways that I can think of or somebody suggests or whatever that I could influence something for the better, like why not? Yeah, I definitely would like to do that.
Yeah, I think as much of a fuck you as this score is to Blizerian when he effectively alludes that nobody knows you, I think the bigger long-term effect is your ability to incite change, however small it may be. And I think we kind of take that for granted in this space specifically because we don't recognize how small it is. And it is very easy for those amplified voices to kind of just have a run of show. So, I mean, from my personal perspective, I'm excited to see, what you're able to do with this platform, what you're able to do with your career moving forward, and how that's able to be leveraged into, some sort of more positive attributes to the community at large. Because it does seem like, at least over the last few weeks, what we saw, it does seem like you have a certain passion at a bare minimum to just make it a less exclusive community, right? Just make it so that people can be heard and kind of get their fair shake.
Yeah. I agree. Yes, that is what I would like.
I guess going back to the tournament really quickly, one thing I wanted to ask is, were there any talks of a chop at any point at this final table?
There were. When we were four-handed, somebody suggested we talk about a chop. I kind of clicked it and I was like, oh, maybe I'll look at the numbers. And I think it was Poncho didn't click it. But as he didn't click it yet, I was kind of looking again at the stack sizes. I'm like, oh, this fourth guy's kind of short. And maybe it'd be better to wait until three-handed anyway, because we're probably going to lose him pretty quickly. And it didn't end up mattering because Poncho never clicked the button. So, and he was down there obviously until three-handed, and then he ends up going out third. And then I have such an overwhelming chip lead that it's just the other guy, asked me do you want to make a deal? And it's I've got a 10-1 chip advantage. And it's I told him, I think in chat, if he gets back, if we get back to even, then we'll talk about it. But 10-1, I think I'll take the chances.
You're all psychopaths for what it's worth. Because so four-handed, I guess with four remaining, you were probably guaranteed about 400K, give or take. Does that seem right? Maybe a little more?
It was more than that because third was 700K.
Okay, so
maybe 500,000.
So 500,000. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's a nice score for sure, and everybody's doing pretty well. But it's insane, the bankroll that the four of you collectively would have to gamble for $1 million would have to be 10 to 20x that. And I'm quite confident.
Let's go, Vanessa. Let's go.
I'm quite confident all four of you were YOLOing it in that moment. Where it's just yeah, let's get the 1.5.
To discuss a deal, and then I was whatever, YOLO. I guess we're playing this out.
Honestly, it's so crazy.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's so crazy. We talked to Landon about this after his tournament win, where you're not prepared for this whenever you're in the in the thick of things. You're only really concerned about making the best decisions you possibly can. You forget that some of the best decisions you could possibly make are also bankroll considerations, because you sat down to play a game for $215. Well, now suddenly you're playing a four-handed match for $1 million, and it's that wasn't really part of the plan. So there isn't
part of the plan, bro.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
About that already, if I ended up heads up against Poncho or something, that was kind of how I expected it to play out, that I was going to end up heads up against Poncho. We're going to be even stacks. It's going to be a really tough heads up battle because he's very aggressive, and it's just going to be difficult. And I'm man, this is $500,000 heads up match. I would, if it plays out that way, I would really want to make a deal, because I just figure it's so the variance is so high on it. It's just such a dangerous spot for $500,000. I might never get I might never get a $500,000 score again in my entire life, and that's only the pay jump. So to lower some of that variance would have been a good idea, but what are you gonna do? Somebody doesn't want to chop, you don't chop. So.
I think it only adds to the legend of this entire story. This is one of the most serendipitous things that I think could ever be written. You wouldn't really even find a screenwriter who would come out of the woodwork and be okay, so what's going to happen is she's going to get assaulted on social media, and then weeks later have a 7-figure score where everybody just disagrees to a child. You know what I mean? So many things had to fall in place. And I can imagine that this entire ride has been relatively overwhelming for you. What do you foresee, obviously in the short run or in the short term, near term, whatever, I can't imagine that you have much in the works of plans, but what do you see this doing for your career, more so in the long term, now that you have a bigger bankroll and you have a sponsorship and you have a means to an end?
I don't really know. Like, it's always been kind of my goal to like basically move up in terms of like higher buy-in MTTs, particularly live MTTs. Like, I only started playing online a couple years ago, and I had always been like a winning player at live poker and moved online, and I was just like lost. I'm just like, I never realized like I think how bad some of my fundamentals were, where if you play a lot of live, especially lower stakes, like people really give you so much information just by looking at them that like I really relied on that a lot. And then moving into the online space, I'm like, man, I have no idea how to tell if this guy's bluffing. Like my bet sizes were off, like the spots I was betting and like everything was bad. And so like even like up to I like experimented with like this hyper aggressive style and like really playing table dynamics the last like or through the summer to a point of like way past what's reasonable, just to see like if I raise any two here in this spot with like ICM pressure, what happens, and like, you know, and just like all like trying out all this like wacky stuff and then just like really dialing it back the last bit and like mixing in some exploitative stuff, but like also doing a bit of GTO things and like playing whatever field it is that I happen to be in. And so like it's been like a weird road for me, and I don't exactly know what the next step is. Like I'd love to be playing like high rollers eventually one day, and like I don't think I'm there yet where I could be profitable necessarily in like, you know, $10,000, $25 or $25,000 buy-ins and stuff, but like I hope to get there, and like I don't feel like I'm massively far off. Like I'm, you know, I need some more work for sure, but it's possible is what I'm saying, I think.
It's only a month away, Vanessa. You could do a lot of work in a month. You know, there's a 25K in Florida coming up. I want to ask you about two things, right? So I do want to ask you about ACR because you are wearing a very nice hoodie.
Oh yeah,
from
ACR. Is the hoodie I wore all 3 days of this tournament, by the way, which probably needs to be washed, and it's a good thing that we're doing this remotely.
So I do want to ask you about ACR, but I also want to ask you about like what got a lot of coverage, like you know, that kind of went very noticed. So it was the disconnect, right? So the disconnect happened three-handed. What was your initial thought? Once the disconnect happens from your opponent, and you have someone, because you're in a pretty bad spot, right? Like ICM wise, you're out of position. Two out of the three hands versus the chip leader, and the chip leader now disconnects. This is probably a pretty good spot for you in terms of like if you want to take advantage of it. But but you didn't. So like, tell me your thoughts like immediately once you see the disconnect happen.
I mean, I don't want to win that way. Like, you know, if I was going to win, like I want it to be fair, basically. And if this guy is like, I didn't even look at what country he was in, honestly. I still have the window up. It might even say, I don't know what country he's in. It won't tell me. But like, you know, like obviously somewhere where his like internet's not the best. And like, I'm thinking almost that like, maybe if it's a country where they like don't even have great internet and stuff, like how much more this score would mean even to him probably, and like just how shitty it is. Like if that happened to me, I'd be like panicking. Like we're playing for $1 million and like your internet dies, like it's unimaginable. Like I would just be like so stressed, and I'm like, this isn't the way it should play out, and it's like not the way I would want to win or chip up or anything. So I was hoping that like there's no way PokerStars wasn't watching, so I'm just like, maybe they'll be nice to this guy and like pause the tournament. And then I basically said that and he came right back. So I was like, okay, like never mind.
Talk to us about ACR. Like you signed to ACR very recently. They clearly got the best of that deal now, right? Like it's, I mean, they couldn't pay for this good of a situation. But tell us why you chose ACR. Like, you know, walk us through the process of getting signed. Like, you know, tell us that experience.
So I actually played the majority of my volume on ACR, the last couple of years. And like not being sponsored by them or anything. I like the site, you can play from anywhere, etc. And we kind of been talking about having like some kind of deal the last little bit. And actually the contract had been sitting in my inbox for like some time. So like, I think like as soon as all this controversy happened and we like announced a signing that like, oh, you know, like ACR is picking her up because of this and stuff, which was like kind of like, oh, I don't like really want people to think that, because like actually it's been a thing we've been discussing for a while now. And like, it just, I don't know, it makes a lot of sense for me. Like, ACR is great with their pros in that like they'll let you play like on any of the sites, and they're really supportive, and they're just like really amazing to their pros. I think like they treat them super well, treat us super well. And yeah, just like want you to win. Like they want you to like play anything that will make you like the happiest and most successful you can be, and like they're cheering on. So like I think like that's huge. Some of these other sites, like if you take a sponsorship with them, like they only want you to play only on their site, and like there's like a lot, I think, stricter with a lot of stuff. And I think also it meant a lot to me, like I've talked with Phil Nagy a number of times, like I've known him for quite a while, and he's been like really supportive, I think, of like all of this, like just trying to like talk about these difficult topics in like a public situation that like, you know, may almost for sure was going to put me in like a polarizing position. And like he was basically not afraid to step in and say like he didn't even insist that we do it on ACR, it had anything to do with ACR. He was like, look, I'll back you if you want to play a heads up match against Dan Bilzerian, like whatever stakes, basically, like, you know, just like I got your back kind of thing. And like that meant a lot to me. And like even just like conversations through the last couple of years, like he's put me in touch with contacts for various things, and like it just like obviously like just seemed to genuinely just really care. And like I've also watched him work super hard on ACR, like burning himself out, wanting to make the site better, and like acknowledging their flaws and like trying to fix them and stuff like that. And I just really respect it. So it just seems like a really good place for me.
They also like they have the power to turn off the doom switch cross platforms.
apparently somehow they like turned on the wrong good on PokerStars.
Is there any?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Berk.
I was gonna say I don't want to overshadow how big of a deal today is and how big of a victory this is, but I feel like I'd be remiss if we didn't kind of probe a little bit more about the Blizerian and GG stuff. And I really only have one question regarding it. Just as far as like the way the whole thing shook out, you know, effectively, like at the very minimum, you have our platform now. Is there anything that like you wish you could have communicated better, or any nuance that was lost through Twitter, or basically given the ability to speak to an audience, like, is there a message that you would prefer to get out that, you know, may be getting misconstrued otherwise?
Yeah, actually, there are a couple of things that people seem to be confused about pretty consistently, and I feel like I've explained it a few places, but there still seems to be some confusion. So like, there's some people who definitely think that like the reason I didn't like Dan Bilzerian is because he posts like pictures of naked women or whatever, but it's the internet. There's naked women all over the internet. Like, this is not my issue with it. Like, I mean, there's like a small issue with basically paying women to up his own social cred using them, right? Like, that's kind of lame, but it's not the main thing. Like, for me, if you go and like read, there's like, you can easily do a Google search and there's just dozens of things where he is like on record, on video, like kicking a woman in the face, getting like kicked out of a club. He brags about another incident where he kicked a woman on like our own 2+2 forums. There's like just like dozens of tweets where he's just like really degrading to women, saying like women are like dog shit. They're easier to pick up as they get older, and like ugly women hurt my eyes. And then like on International Women's Day, he has like the naked chick on her hands and knees or whatever, bent over, like eating his dinner off her. And like the caption says, "Happy International Women's Day. They're useful for so many things." Like, it just like, and like, I think even worse, particularly in our poker space, like back when Kate Hall was playing Dentali, he commented like on Twitter to her, like, "I don't know who you are, but I would bet on you to lose because you're a woman and women can't play poker," basically. And I'm just like all of these things is like, this is not the guy. Like, this is not the guy you want in poker to be representing, like for people to look up to, and like, let's bring his whole crowd in who, like, you know, a lot of them are just decent people, but then a lot are going to like really reflect this kind of like value set or whatever, right? And like, do we really want them in our pool? Like, yeah, they're probably like easy money. I don't know. Like, it just feels like a really huge like compromise of values if you have them, right? Like,
Well, that
So
is a huge issue, right? Is that the most fruitful market to target, and I know this from having done research, is age 30 to 45, white male, living in the Midwest who votes conservatively. That's where the vast majority of money is in this particular space. So Blizerian speaks to that crowd, and I think it's a massive marketing hurdle that we have to overcome. And a big way to do that, actually, I believe, would be to target the female poker pro. But it's a longer road, right? This group is already interested in poker and has liquidity now. This other group may be larger, but it needs to be nurtured and it needs to be welcomed and it needs to be, given a path of lower resistance to getting to the point of being competitive. And I personally don't have any answers for that. I know Christian and I spoke at length a couple weeks ago. Hopefully you had a chance to watch, and
I did, yep.
you can agree, disagree. I know that we're not speaking from the perspective of women. At best, we can just try to have some sort of sympathy towards what's going on. But I'm not marginalized in any sort of way, and Christian may be slightly as a minority, but I imagine it pales in comparison.
Dominicano, papi. Dominicano, papi.
Yeah, but I imagine it pales in comparison to the low population of females that we have. So yeah, I don't think anybody expects you to have answers, but I did want to give you the opportunity to get anything off your chest that maybe 280 characters can't suffice.
So we could probably discuss the details of this for an hour, but I feel like there are some flaws with some of that, in that a lot of Bilzerian's audience is in the US. And this is some of the marketing they're going to be able to do isn't necessarily for later when online poker is legalized in the US and down the road we can maybe tap it. They're trying to take advantage of it now. And a lot of his audience isn't even eligible to play on GG Poker. So there's some of that. I think that maybe there's I think Tuckman's podcast, I broke down trying to figure out basically what percentage of his audience are is actually eligible to basically sign up for poker, from the sense that they have disposable income, they're the right age group, they have some kind of interest in these games, they're not in the States, and there was a long list of things basically that I think really actually reduces that audience a ton. And I'm not sure what the numbers would actually look like, but I feel like maybe it's not quite as great as it seems just based on straight social media numbers.
It's tough to say. If they can accrue 0.1%, that's 40,000 new users, and 1% would be 400,000. I obviously think that you're right in what you're saying, but there are also a lot of people who are skirting this. GG seems to be pretty open to bending the rules a little bit. I agree with you that it's not in the best interest long term for the community, but I think that we don't do a good enough job holding companies like this to the fire whenever they choose the lowest hanging fruit. Because from a branding perspective, it's if we're not going to speak with our dollars when they do something that we think is reprehensible, then they have every right to double down on it because it's going to make them more money.
Yeah, I agree.
So the moneymaker effect. That could be you right now. Online poker might come to America. Superstar Vanessa Kade, $200 into 1.5 M, a smooth 1.5 M. That might be it. You might just set online poker on fire in America. You might have to move, to the States, somewhere in Texas, Austin. I heard you like Austin very much, and that might be it. I don't know. That might be it. There's a 25K in Florida. You're gonna play it.
25K.
you're gonna play it, and yeah. Honestly, it was a pleasure. It's a pleasure that you allowed me to have you on this podcast first. I'm sure you have thousands. CNN is calling. Anderson Cooper's on the line. How did it happen? How did you feel on the Ace King versus Fives hand? thank you for coming. I mean, it's incredible. I'm glad we could share the experience with you.
Oh, you bet. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know about the moneymaker effect thing though. Like, I mean, my perspective of it is skewed, right? Like to me, like I'm tagged in everything and I'm seeing like all the messages and it's just very overwhelming, but I have no sense of what this looks like from like an outside perspective and like how much it's all over everything or like, you know, I just don't have any sense for this at all. Like none. So, I mean, I feel like it's an exaggeration to say that this would be like the money effect.
We'll see. We didn't know it was moneymaker until it was moneymaker, right? Like it is, so it's like it is what it is. But no, I'll let you go. I know that I'm sure all your messages are blowing up. I mean, what are you gonna say, right? But no, it was a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Florida and everywhere. You know, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's like
Thank you.
fantastic to be here for this reason.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vanessa.
All right. See ya.
All right. That was the newly minted superstar, Vanessa Kade. And man, that was a fun conversation. What did you think about the conversation? There was you were throwing a little bit of the hardball questions there for a little bit, and what do you think?
I think it went well. I'm happy that she gets to do her victory lap. Like this is what we should be giving people the mic to do victory laps for. It's a good feel good story, I suppose. And you know, to her last point, it's like this is as big of a deal as we're willing to make it. So I hope the storyline is first and foremost she does the improbable. And then the underscore to that is, you know, and it's a big fuck you to Blizerian and Gigi or whatever. I'm not so confident that that's the way the news cycle works, but, you know, wishful thinking. I also think that, like, just seeing some of those hands, this would be a fascinating final table to actually go back and review. It seems like I literally only saw the 4 hands that we just showed, but it seems like there were a lot of mistakes taking place. That 9s fold is fascinating.
Yeah, it was, you know, she did say that her and Ape Styles are going to review it. Obviously, Ape Styles is one of the best players, you know, in MTTs, and also an ACR Pro, so that's going to be great for them. But yeah, I mean, you can imagine, right? Like, it's a 215. The average buy-in for these players likely isn't extremely high. You're probably seeing a lot of satellite winners. You're seeing a lot of low stakes regs getting to that far. I believe when they were down to 18, I was watching the coverage. There was really only 2 players that were like widely known, right? Like it was Vanessa Kade and another player. I believe it was Sid. The chat will probably help me here, but his name started with an S. It was like Sirata or something, Sinyata. And, you know, that's going to happen, right? It's a 70,000 player field. Like you're going to get to the final, and there's going to be probably winning players, but not high stakes winning players often. And people are going to make mistakes. Also, you have 9s. You're playing for $1.5 million. Like maybe you don't want to call it off with 9s under the gun versus under the gun 1. You know, it's a little scary.
I'm not even positive that the fold is incorrect. I just think it's a really fascinating spot to analyze. I think it was like an 11 big blind shove, and that stack had like 13 or 14, something like that. It would have put Vanessa in a really tough spot with ace queen. I assume she has to fold.
Yeah, she folds. I'm assuming she folds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun, right, to like review your final tables and stuff, but this is one. It's nice to review them when you win.
Yeah, you know? Of course.
It's like, oh, let's review this. I got 7th.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, let's review this. I got 1st. For
7th would have been pretty nice, man. Pick up a $250,000. You know, like that's a good day. That is winning the Sunday Million any other week.
You know, I was reading through some of Vanessa's stuff, and she like, I know how she felt. Like she was like, nah, like I got through 70,000. Like I might as well just fucking win now. Like I'm not gonna get through 70,000 again and just get 7th. Like
no,
you know,
that's honestly, I think that's really true. Like, you know, I kind of pointed out that it's insane. Even once you're down to the final 9, it's insane not to start talking numbers from Kelly Criterion theory. But the other aspect of it is, if you have a relatively high skill edge in this particular spot, you're going to be incentivized to be pretty fucking aggressive with the amount of risk that you can take on. That's not to say that like you should just play it out every single time, but it does incentivize you now to maybe wait until there's 5 left to chop or 4 left to chop, or if you're Ponch, apparently like you're just never chopping. It seemed like he just had no interest. But
So
yeah,
the Ponch was weird because like rumors were that he was like a 2K hyper heads up like player.
yeah,
So that's, you probably have a couple million back behind you, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it
yeah.
seems as if like
Yeah.
2K hypers,
yeah,
like you're probably
he's rolled.
some
Maybe,
right. You're
maybe not,
pretty heavy-
maybe not to take on all the variants, but to take on most of it for sure.
Right. So effectively, he's playing for the difference of 4th and 1st, which is I don't know I don't have the exact numbers, but like
about a million. Yeah.
probably a million. Like I'm sure he's 2K hypers. You're probably rolled over a million for sure.
Yeah, but
So-
you need more than 1-to-1.
No, I know.
But-
he's
but yeah.
maybe, but like accounting for skill edge, he's like maybe this is a once in a lifetime thing. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna like I'm gonna play. But Berkey, the movies are not made through chops.
No,
You know,
that's
like
true. That part's true.
you can't go to Hollywood and be like, look, this is the storyline, and at the end, she chops. Like it doesn't work like that. Like you can't just get Spielberg to fucking say like he's not gonna change the story. That's too big at the end. Like
Sure.
you could change like maybe she didn't shove the Jack 9. I mean the Jack 8 off. Maybe it was Jack 9 suited in the movie.
Right,
You know,
right.
but-
Approved shove.
But
Stamp.
yeah, it's like okay, fine. In the movie, it's the Jack 9 suited. Everyone approves. Nobody's pulling out the fucking solver, right?
Right,
It's
yeah.
all good.
Yeah.
But you can't. It can't be chopped.
No,
It
I
just
understand.
can't happen.
I
You know what I'm saying?
understand. Yeah, really fascinating way it played out. I would be curious to see that ace king spot. My instincts say that he's probably just supposed to open shove, but calling off probably isn't very bad. I wouldn't imagine. I could be wrong, but like I can't imagine that she's just not jamming ace queen. And
No, I think so. Like when you see 5s,
Yeah.
you're probably seeing a lot of ace X, right? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
like
So
ace
like,
X is powerful there for sure.
yeah, and I know that like the adage is like you don't want to call off your chips when there's a shorter stack because it's ICM suicide, yada yada yada. But like that's different whenever you're putting yourself in a spot to be like a 3-to-1 favorite at a pretty high frequency.
Right. Yeah, I think it's definitely debatable. I would be very curious to see the spot too. I mean, at some point, you have to try to win the tournament, right? Like you have to play, right?
Yeah.
So ICM. We've said this before on the podcast. ICM is not perfect. It's not a perfect model, and like even if it's sane to fold, maybe there's an argument to call.
I actually
who
think
knows, right?
the more I think about it, I was actually talking to Andre about this as it was playing down. He's probably supposed to limp range there.
I like that.
Being second in chips versus the chip leader, I would almost guarantee the model would suggest that he limps 100 or
Yeah.
100% of the playable hands that he chooses to continue with. He might be folding like 15%, and then it's just a very clean limp rip with ace king.
For sure. And I did see Vanessa, like kudos to her. Like I did see the entire coverage in the same formation where she's small blind versus big blind. She limped pure.
Yeah.
So
as you should.
She was limping pure. I saw hands like ace jack being limped, ace 10 suited being limped. Like her entire range was being aces got limped.
Yeah.
Right. Like so she played that spot like you're saying. So yeah, I do agree. I think the ace king should probably be like a pure limp, and then it's just a smooth shove right over the ISO, which is going to come a fair amount given that it's like first place versus second place.
Yeah. And I imagine she would actually probably choose rather large sizes too. So that's definitely just printing money.
Yeah. There you go. That's part of the movie. It's the new movie.
We solved it. We got there.
All right, man. I mean, I was happy she came on here. Do you have any closing thoughts? Like,
no, it was a good interview. I'm excited to see how things progress forward. Hopefully this continues the conversation. I really think that that's the biggest thing. I don't expect Vanessa to be the poster child of the women's rights movement in poker. But what I do hope that it does is continue the conversation, at least for a little while longer in the public eye. And, give a little bit more latitude to other female voices to kind of speak up. Kind of like, almost like climbing off the back of Vanessa in some regard, where she's a bit of a shield now, right? She's kind of bulletproof for the next however many days, weeks, months. and she can really utilize her position to really empower a lot of other voices. And we already kind of saw that. We saw, a lot of other smaller podcasts like coming out of the woodwork as the coverage started to come to a close on this whole thing. I don't think that everybody was in a place to remain silent throughout. So, yeah, I think that, all in all, this is a very positive event for poker. I think that it's a very positive event for Vanessa, of course. And I'll be interested to see how things progress.
I'm interested in, like, if there's any, like, impact in terms of, like, the numbers, right? Like, most of the community is male. And most of the community, if you look at through the WSOP numbers, like, is getting older, right?
Yep.
Online garners to a younger crowd, and also there, like, having someone like Vanessa winning such a large number through a buy-in that is relatively affordable for some people. There is a chance that, like, the numbers of females just, like, increase, right? And I'm not saying that through, like, we've been talking about this for years, but I actually think there is a chance now. Like, that's a huge number. It gets massive publicity. It's gonna transcend poker. Like, there's just, she's getting requests for interviews from, like, news stations and all these things. Like, there's a chance that, like, just like chess, right? Like, it picks up some steam through the movie on Netflix. Like, there is a chance that people just see this, especially females and of a younger generation, and they're just like, I want to give this a shot. And that's kind of what I mean with like the moneymaker thing.
That stuff doesn't happen organically. The moneymaker effect was because of the media push behind it, and the same thing would have to happen here. So yeah, you're right. There's an opportunity here, but again, we as a community, we don't really have the platforms necessary to make this a bigger deal than what it is, and we don't have the resources necessary to make Vanessa a face in some regard of the female movement in poker. So yeah, I mean, optimistically speaking, sure, there's a snowball effect that could take place, but I think it's going to be very minimal in the numbers. The hopes are that we start to see, other outside forces get encouraged by this and find ways to leverage events that occur within the community to spin messages in a way that will promote growth. We just don't have that right now. And it's kind of unfortunate, but everybody seems very content with what they are able to make in the space right now, not recognizing that we're on a dying star.
You always, you're always so positive, man. You're just like,
I'm trying to save people, man. There are environmentalists out there saying, hey, assholes, there is a plastic island in the ocean the size of fucking Texas. Stop doing this stuff. Everyone's like, don't worry about it. People have been out there saying, like, fossil fuels are going to run out. We better it took Elon Musk to come in and be like, hey, guys, seriously, won't be gasoline for much longer. We probably should be looking into renewables, right? So, like, at some point, you can't just finger wag at the realist and say, you're so pessimistic. I don't understand why you can't just put on a smile and be along for the ride like the rest of us. It's because nothing fucking gets done when you do that. You got to get out there and recognize the real problems that exist and the real action that can be taken to change them. And I'm here to take some goddamn action. I'm an action player, baby.
I hope Spielberg just fucking calls her right now and just says, like, let's just do it. Blake Lively's going to play you and we're good. Like, let's just roll it. And that might be it. That might be that might change everything, Berk. That might be it.
A Hollywood script for the ages.
Who's going to play Dan Bilzerian?
Dan Blizerian.
No, but I mean, it is pretty incredible. All right. If you all liked it, please like the video. If you want to see Vanessa Kade play the 25K in Florida next month, leave a comment, say play the 25K. If there's 100 comments, she's going to play. She's definitely going to play. I think that it's like contractually obligated by Phil Nagy.
Are you going to play?
The 25K?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it, Berk. Let's fucking play.
I'm playing. I already know I'm
Let's
playing.
play
I bubbled it twice.
My bad, High Roller. My bad. My bad, big fucking high roll. You know I'm playing. You know I've played it the last 20 years.
It's a very, very good event.
There's a bunch of Cubans out there, I heard.
What? Poker
Yeah,
players?
the fucking yeah, but it's Florida, baby. You know, you gotta go out there, bro. The Cubans out there playing. They're playing poker, man.
All right, let's get it.
It's ese dinero de la cocaína, esa cocaína cubana. You know,
See.
it's good.
See. I don't know what he just said.
Just-
I probably just agreed to something very awful.
You did. We got him. We got it. We got him one time. All right. We got him one time. All right. If you all enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, say play the 25K. And with that said, we're out of here.